And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle show. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Dr. Shankar Musunuri, who's the chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Ocugen. Ticker symbol is OCGN. Dr. Shankar, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
Thank you for having me today.
So I always like to ask, can you tell us a little about your story and how you got to where you are today?
Well, I worked for more than 30 years, my journey in pharmaceutical industry and biotech. After getting my PhD, I started my career in biotech in San Diego. In 1996, almost 30 years ago, we moved to East Coast, Philly, suburban Philly, and I'm still here. And I came to work actually for another biotech, and that company got bought over by Wyeth very shortly after I joined. And I became a big pharma employee. And I had a great opportunity, and I had very good mentors working in R&D operations on the business side. And during that tenure in big pharma, I was there about for 14 years, 15 years, from 96 to 2010. And then Wyeth got bought out by Pfizer. So I became Pfizer employee. And during the tenure, I also was able to get my MBA from Duke and and also contribute on the business side. It was very helpful. A good training gave me a lot of confidence, and basically I got trained. With my ambitions to really do more for patients. I'm very passionate about patients and targeting really unmet medical needs, and I can have direct impact. And I got good training. I got good support from Big Pharma, Wyeth and Pfizer, great leaders. So I think with all that confidence, I became an entrepreneur, and
Nice.
that's my journey. And then I came out of Pfizer in 2010 and started a company, ran it for a few years. In 2013, I was taking a break, and our co-founder, Professor Compella, who went to the same undergrad school like I did, is in touch with me. Is a well-known researcher in ophthalmology disease area. And so the first invention came from his lab into Ocugen. That's our OCU200, currently about to go into phase one. We recently got IND cleared by FDA. And because there's so much of unmet medical need with retinal diseases and blindness diseases in a broad sense, and that's how we started it. There's a lot of unmet medical need. Our goal is to eventually mission is to help patients. And we felt when there is unmet medical need, we can find funding. That's how the company got started.
I love it. That's a great story, and I love the evolution and the ambition. So let's talk about the company. Please tell us what you do and some of your competitive advantages.
Yeah, so Ocugen is primarily focused on ophthalmology gene therapies. We believe, we are leaders in ophthalmology gene therapies with 3 programs in clinical trials. We do have a cell therapy platform for cartilage repairs, regenerative cell therapy, first of kind, first in class, ready to go to phase 3. We also have a inhalation vaccine platform, first in class. However, for the last 2 years, our focus has been gene therapies, and we'll continue to have that focus because we want to be leaders in gene therapy, starting with ophthalmology, and we want to probably diverse into other disease areas in future. And why we're so excited with our gene therapy platform. This is a modifier gene therapy. Why it's distinct from other gene therapies and gene editing. This platform, this invention came through Dr. Nina Hyder's lab at Harvard Medical School. She worked on human genome before. Then after that, she spent 20 years inventing these genes. And these are like a transcription factors. You can call them master regulators. So the reason why we continue to be excited with this platform is when you take blindness diseases, there are 2 kinds. You can separate them out. You get inherited retinal diseases, and which are passed on for generations from parents. When their parents have it, kids mostly get it. And there is a big diseases like macular degeneration, age-related macular degeneration, which are based on age and other factors play in there. And so the IRDs are like rare diseases, right? They probably have a few 100,000 patients, and whereas diseases like AMD, you go into millions. And so we have a platform we believe has ability to potentially treat both those populations with our genes. So what are these genes? How are they different compared to a traditional gene therapy? We got the greatest discoveries in 21st century, right? We got like a human genome completed, and then we got cell therapies and gene therapies. CAR-T is coming to the market. Great innovations. However, I'll take the IRD part first, inherited retinal diseases. In that segment, there is a disease called retinitis pigmentosa. About 100 genes can cause retinitis pigmentosa, defects in about 100 genes. So with the traditional gene therapy or gene editing, they're very precise. So you have a defective gene, then you give a functioning gene, or with the gene editing, you take that defective part and replace. Okay?
Yep.
And however, if you have a disease like RP, about 100 genes can cause the disease, you need 100 products. It's almost impossible to develop 100 products. When, this debilitating disease is causing many patients to go blind. Some of them are going blind in a few months. Some of them are going blind next few years. So there is nothing for these patients. There's only one product which got launched in 2017, Luxturna, and it only treats like, mutation from one genetic, mutation, RP65, covers less than 2% of RP. RP has about 110,000 patients in US, 300,000 US and EU together, 1.6 million global, right? So only one genetic mutation we are curing. And what about other patients? That was like 2017. We are in 2024. Okay, 7 years later, there are many companies who are trying to work in this area. It's very complex, even with traditional gene therapies. There's nothing out there. So what our modifier genes do is these are like a master regulators. What we found out, when you have a defective gene, you have to look at the entire network as a whole. So this master regulator like NR2E3, what we are targeting for RP, is also depressed. Okay? Why that's important? Because there is a network retina. We have more than 30,000 genes in our human system, and about 10% of them work on our vision system. And what we found out, so when you have this master regulator is depressed, these regulators control the network in retina from cell development, metabolism, phototransduction, inflammation, to cell survival. And then there are multiple genes, functioning genes under these networks. So this master regulator controls all these networks and underlying gene expression. So when you have a defect, if this master regulator is depressed, a lot of key functioning genes are depressed. When you give this gene externally through AAV, you deliver this, then all these functioning genes under this network come back. Why that's important? Because fixing just a specific defect may not yield optimum results. You really have to look at the network. Genes work as a network.
Interesting.
You need to find out what is causing the network effect, right? So that's the key. These master regulators are the key. And we have 4 groundbreaking publications in Nature, and many animal studies to prove that concept. And a couple of our genes are covered in that. One, NR2E3, covering IRDs, another one covering macular degeneration. Now I'll come to macular degeneration. So in the macular degeneration, you can take a dry age-related macular degeneration. It's a huge disease, 260 million people global, 10 million patients in US. The late stage of the dry age-related macular degeneration is called geographic atrophy. This is like about 10% of the patients are in that. So what it means is they got atrophic area in the central vision. That means the blurriness. I'm 55 or 60. When I have the disease, I'm in late stage, like geographic atrophy. I have the blurriness in the central vision. Now I am desperate. My God, I'm getting the blurriness. Now I won't be able to do things I'm able to do. I can't see people. I can't function. What am I going to do? So that disease is very complex. Why? There are multiple pathways which cause the disease, like, oxidative stress, lipid metabolism, inflammation, complement system. So there are 2 products FDA approved last year. They work on only complement system. I mean, it's not that bad. They moderately reduce the growth of the lesion compared to untreated in 2 years, about 30%. That means the lesion is still growing. And they have to give 6 to 12 injections a year in the eye, which is very difficult for compliance reasons. about 10 to 12% get wet macular degeneration for treatment with dry. Even then, those drugs are approved because there's nothing for these patients, right? If there is nothing, if I can slow down the disease progression, that's how they get approval. However, we have another gene. We got very compelling data in vitro, in vivo models, which is already going through phase 2, OCU410. Why? That gene controls all these pathways. Because it's really important to understand genesis of any disease. How does the dry AMD or AMD start? Because of the oxidative stress and lipid metabolism. And that triggers like a, this formation of this drusen, which are like particles you can think. And then you get an inflammatory response like cytokine response, and that causes AMD. So working on the complement system is not bad, but that's not the genesis of the disease. You need to really the core issues, oxidative stress, lipid metabolism, how to control these pathways. And this RORA gene controls those pathways. So these genes have ability to work on diseases which are rare or inherited retinal diseases. And they also have, can work on complex diseases. They need multiple pathways. What they do, they regulate entire network and bring homeostasis and also restore the function and create healthy environment for cells to survive. That's a very important concept. I mean, we are featured in cool technologies, anti-aging companies. Last month, somebody wrote an article. Why? These are like the same concept, right? If I can reset, create a healthy environment for photoreceptors or retinal cells to survive. I mean, these cells are non-dividing cells, unlike other cells in our human system. And what you have or what you have for life, that's it. When the photoreceptors degenerate, that's why as we age, we all have vision problems. Yes. But if I can reset them at some point of your life and create a healthy environment for cells to survive, potentially they should survive for the rest of your life. And so that's a concept.
I love that. So basically, there's two kinds of eye diseases. One where it's hereditary or it's genetic and it's passed from generation to generation where they're blind. The second is as people age, which we all do.
Right.
Inevitably, the body just, the eyesight just gets weaker and weaker as we age. But you're trying to help that. So instead of going after one gene, you're going after the entire network to reset it, almost, so to speak. So that's makes perfect sense. Now, question for you: are you able to take that technology and apply it to other genes and help reset those?
No, I mean, obviously, our focus has been in ophthalmology right now. We got 3 programs: OCU400 targeting on retinitis pigmentosa, which has about 300,000 patients in US and EU. That's going through phase 3, and then OCU410 targeting dry AMD, geographic atrophy, targeting like 10 million patients in US. Late stage geographic atrophy is million patients alone. And think about just giving a 1 injection back of the eye, and you have a potential, significant reduction in, disease progression, or in some cases, even controlling the disease progression, or a reversal is potential, right? And then the third one is targeting Stargardt disease. That's also inherited retinal disease, about 44,000 patients in US. So what we are doing is some of these genes, just like you said, these are master regulators, transcription factors, have ability to control beyond eye diseases, blindness diseases. So obviously, Ocugen's goal is to really focus, be a leader in ophthalmology gene therapies, then segment into other disease areas where these master regulators will have effect. Great question. So that's future.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about risk management, Dr. Shankar. How do you handle risk, and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management?
The risk management in a clinical trials, right? What can you do humanly possible to minimize the risk, right? That's all you can do. And I mean, just like in Wall Street, you can have AI, you can have predictive tools. If I can predict a stock, then it won't be the stock market, right? So similar to that, what we do, I mean, number one, you need to have a significant experienced team, designing clinical trials, really understand. We have industry veterans here at Ocugen, right? And, the team, we have, some of them came from large pharma. We got internal team that are, very, very experienced external consultants. You look at the data, dissect it. So what we have done in phase 1/2, taking retinitis pigmentosa program as an example, OCU400. After phase 1/2, if you look at data on our corporate deck, you'll see it. So there's a functional endpoint we look at. The one product which got approved use the similar functional endpoint, which is mobility test. Why? RP patients lose their functional vision first, like peripheral vision and night vision. Then they got a limited central vision left. Eventually, they lose that. So so you can measure whatever you want in the doctor's office, but I mean, for me as a patient, I need to see an improvement after the treatment, right? And that's like a big what can help me to navigate. Let's say I'm independent now, I'm losing my vision, but whatever I want to hang on to what I have, and how do I measure it? So there is a mobility course, one of the first product which got approved. They use similar mobility course, but every mobility course is proprietary. Ocugen has their own mobility course. We call it luminescence dependent navigation assessment. What it is we create like a obstacle course with the different light conditions, right? And if I'm able to see this bright light, and if I'm and tomorrow, I'm not able to see in the moonlight. If I'm going towards that bright light to moonlight, then my function will improve significantly. Why? That means a lot of times, because a lot of these people lose vision, night vision first, and the peripheral vision. So if I'm able to function in a dull light from bright light, I can do a lot more things, right? I mean, doing things at home in the evenings, and going into the kitchen, walking in a restaurant without anybody's help, going and sitting in my seat without holding somebody's hand. That means a lot to me, my life. And so I think that's what we have to put ourselves in patients and how we are controlling that. So taking that concept, we use the similar mobility test in phase 1/2, and we showed in people who can meet our phase 3 criteria, because phase 1/2, you take high-risk patients, and some of those patients don't fit into phase 3. We just want to make sure they have certain vision left for our gene therapies to work. And also, we want to make sure ability to pass 2 levels in our phase 3 clinical trials. Because some of the phase 1/2 patients, we could not choose that because, you have to take high risk and look at the safety first. And so some of them are on the edge of that course. That means, if my edge is like 0.04, it stops at that, I'm at that, I cannot show, even the patient is doing well, I cannot measure that. So we came up with the precise course, improving that in phase 3, working closely with FDA, thanks to them. They're very supportive. And that course, so what we did, so in the similar course in phase 1/2, we got 62.5% pass, okay? And people who fit into phase 3. So, and took that, and the similar mobility test, what it means is the responders, people who can cross 2 levels improvement. So if you compare with the marketed product, which got approval in their phase 3, they got 52.4%. So we got a higher threshold already passed. And then in phase 3, we actually reduced the threshold for design, calling responders if they hit 50%. That means not everybody has to pass. Okay? If 50% of the patients who are treated, and we will have untreated arm in phase 3, 2-to-1 ratio, 100 patients in treated and 50 in untreated. It's a 1-year duration we'll monitor. And that means taking that 50% as a pass, that means we reduce the threshold from 62.5 to 50. So we built a buffer, okay? And we took 150 patients in the trial. That is, the power of the trial is more than 95%. Okay? So that's how you minimize the risk. So we looked into the endpoint, what FDA approved before. We are following similar functional endpoints, so that gives a higher probability of success. We already looking at the data in phase 1/2. We already passed that mark, and we reduced that mark further down, and we increase the power. You can have more than 80% power in phase 3. Many companies set it up more than 80, more than 90. We set it up more than 95%. That means we'll have a lesser delta to show between the control and treated groups to pass. That's why the size goes up. The commercial product which got approved had 30 patients in their entire phase 3. We got 150 patients. So I think it's a great question. So what we can do, you look at all the data, analyze it with experts, internal and external experts, set up the clinical trial for high probability of success. That's what we have done. So that's how we do at Ocugen. Really dissecting the data, use the internal, external expert, and closely working with FDA, because there's so much of unmet medical need. FDA gave us regenerative medicine advanced therapy designation for this product. and that is inclusive of fast track breakthroughs. And they really work with you. They recognize it has a significant unmet medical need. They want some therapies for rescue for these patients. Because every day, even I'm talking to you today, many people across the globe are becoming blind with these diseases, and they don't have any rescue. So there is a sense of urgency there, and the agencies understand it. Thanks to FDA, they're closely working. They also gave expanded access program, which is very unique for our phase 3 program. What it means is, while the clinical trial is going on, it'll still take, let's say, about 2 years to get to the market. In between, because of some reasons, I may not qualify for phase 3, or I don't want to wait for phase 3 because phase 3 has a control arm. And some patients want to come, I want a therapy now. We can provide the access because based on the safety and benefit, FDA, approved EAP. So we can provide that access outside of the clinical trial. Okay.
Love that. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So you want to do is you want to make sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You're taking a slow and measured approach, but when it works, you have symmetric reward where the risk is small, but the upside is potentially unlimited or much larger than the risk.
And the same thing we're doing with the second program. We have first and foremost with the gene therapies you see in the marketplace. I don't have to tell you that if you go in a lot of reports in the last 2 years, safety is number one concern.
Right.
And I can say, we make a very high quality product, and most of our gene therapy is directly going to subretinal injection. And the procedures is, all our surgeons are, top class surgeons, a lot of experience, and make sure they follow proper methodologies to minimize any surgical risk. And number two, the quality of product speaks itself. We make very high quality product very consistently. That's really important for gene therapies. And so what does it mean? The net result is in all 3 gene therapy programs, today we dose so many patients, it's safe and tolerable. That's important.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So what we're doing for the second program, we're already in phase 2, and we're planning to analyze some phase 1, not only safety looks good, and looking at preliminary efficacy data. Why that's important? Because as I mentioned to you, the 2 products in the marketplace, you have to give 6 to 12 injections. There is a moderate efficacy with, slowing down the disease progression compared to control, 30% in 2 years. So we're looking at the data. Hey, those products got approval with, structural endpoint, like looking at the lesion size. And with ours, because these master regulators can do many things, slow down disease progression, potential to, stabilize it. So can we look into the data and look into structural as well as some functional endpoints and see how patients are benefiting from this? And so we're going to release some data by the end of the year. And our phase 2 is really ongoing. That's again, it's a SSR controlled study. And the third program, OCU410ST, Stargardt disease, we have completed phase 1. That means the dose escalation of low, mid, and high dose. Again, the safety looks good. And we're also going to look into some efficacy data, planning to release that at the end of the year. So we have a lot of these inflection points coming out for investors. And the goal is to, just like I stated, and you asked a good question about risk, right? And look at the data and proceed stepwise and closely working with FDA, EMA, and other regulatory agencies to navigate this.
I love it. Makes perfect sense. So now we shift the conversation to my favorite part of the show, which is the timeless advice. So Dr. Shankar, what are some timeless lessons that you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think that's a loaded question. I mean, one thing as an entrepreneur, taking risk. First thing I would say, people need to have grit. If they want to found companies, the thing is, if you take our biotech, right? If you look into the value chain, you got like a distributing companies, very low margins. Then you got generics. Then you got, spec pharma companies with repurposed drugs. Then you got small molecule, new chemical entities. Then you got biologicals and vaccines. Then you got like gene therapies and cell therapy. The highest, I would call it top 5% work in this, brightest, okay, with these innovations. And they're going to the future, right? Where there is no cures before, now you're trying to find cures. And I think that it's really fascinating time. However, if you're getting into this, I tell this, it's Silicon Valley, the tech, right? We're on the other side of the tech, but we're dealing with patients. not just revenues. Okay? And so number one, so you're not only dealing with other regulations, you're dealing with agencies, how to get these drugs approved for patients. Patient is like in the primary center of our focus every day. And we want to change their lives and impact their lives and whatever we can do. That's our purpose. So if you have that purpose and grit to help patients, and you need to not only have passion, but you need to have perseverance. You will fall as an entrepreneur. I mean, because as I mentioned to you, in the tech side, they're very innovative. I really admire those tech leaders on Silicon Valley. But when you're dealing with patients, it's not just the innovation, and you're dealing with the lives. So there is another element of added, so many compliance factors, other things add up, right? And you need to have it inside, that maintaining the high integrity, because the patient get affected, whatever you generate, maintain the high quality. But grit is very important for entrepreneurs in this field, because it's not easy, two people sitting in a room buying bunch of, access to AI and computers, start a company. It doesn't work that way. And the barriers to entry in biotech are very high. Just to take a program to phase 1, you need $20-30 million, right? So that's the barrier. So you need to have really grit. If your focus is on patient, your mission is to help patients, you can get there. You will fall. That's my first advice. But you need to be strong, stand up and get moving. You also need to have, at least some bumps on the head. Experience will definitely help. It's helping me. And I'm going to tell other entrepreneurs, you don't need to have everything as an entrepreneur, as a leader. Okay? What you need to have, once you have the grit, make sure you have adequate experience, take the heat and bumps. Okay? And if you have gaps in your knowledge or experience, it's okay. Good leaders don't have to be everything. Hire a team and trust them. Okay? Get experienced people and smart people under you who have the similar passion and grit. They don't take no for an answer. They want to solve the problems, right?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Absolutely.
So that's really important. So you need good leaders under you who can build that kind of a team. And so hire smart people who are hardworking, they have equal grit, and coach them and delegate. Okay? So you can multiply yourself and grow as a leader. So those are the two things I would make sure you have a grit, not just having a passion to fall, and that you will get up and get going. You don't stop. Okay? Because your purpose is very clear. You don't stop it. I want to do something. I want to impact those patients until you go to the finish line and launch those products, globally provide them access. Don't sleep. That's our mission, Adams. I think I didn't talk about it. Our mission here is, what is that thing, we want to do differently than where I came from large pharma. We really believe in really helping patients. When you're taking cutting edge technologies like gene therapies, one-time potential treatments for life, right? Significantly changing patients. I'm going to become blind. I don't have anything. Now I'm giving you a potential treatment which can stop the progression and you can live your life. So that's big, right? So however, these technologies are costing, $1 million to $4 million today per patient in US. If you're born in countries which cannot afford, can you deny them for 10 years?
Yeah.
That's wrong, right? As a human being. So our goal at Ocugen is, as a mission, we need to find solutions for that. It's not only launching this product to the market in the next 2 to 3 years, or gene therapies will start getting the market, work even harder to provide market access to patients globally. That's what we believe in. Okay? And that means in some markets, we need to have regional partnerships. Come up with the potential ways. Don't stick to this US pricing. Whatever you can come up with. I think you need to provide solutions. It's like taking a spaceship to the moon or Mars. But if you're not doing any good to mankind, there's no purpose for that. Right? So you can launch the cutting edge technology. I mean, these gene therapies are like that. And tech side, going where no man has gone before, and no human being has gone before. We're launching these phenomenal technologies, which you never thought about them 20 years ago. But you need to do a lot of good with that. If somebody is born in some country, they cannot afford the US price, you need to figure it out. How to get them the therapy. Then we have achieved our purpose. That's our mission at Ocugen. Work even harder to provide global access to patients who need them globally. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. You've got the business side, you've got the grit side, you've got the human element, which is extremely important. and it's a great mission. So follow the mission. How about timeless mistakes? What are some timeless mistakes you've learned that you'd like to share with the audience, please?
The timeless mistakes are, I mean, obviously, when you're in biotech, as I said, the barrier to entry is, is raising a lot of funds. You need a lot of investments. As I mentioned before, sometimes on the tech side, you can idea, you get smart people, a bunch of smart people in a room, and technology doesn't cost much. Get access to their barriers to entry are low, and you can probably become revenue generating companies in a few years. Here, each drug minimum takes like 10 years to develop. Okay, you can have a Nobel Prize, or you can use AI to cut down discovery time. But once the molecule is discovered, it'll take like, at least a few years to take it to the clinic, doing like all the proper studies and doing, preclinical toxicology studies, put into the clinic. Then you have to go to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So what is the thing you're looking for? Is investment, number one. So I talked about having a good team around it. Then you need to really get good funds, starting, from pre-seed money to, Series A, Series B, and potentially you have to take the company public. In some cases, in some areas like cancer, there is a lot of money, and maybe you don't have to go public. Maybe you can find a potential big pharma partner when you're in after phase 1. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And so you really need to have a good roadmap where you want to go, how you want to navigate your company based on the disease area, and make sure right from the get-go, good investors into the company who really understand the risk, because that's important.
Yes.
If you have people who understand, pharma or biotech business, this is not like a making quick money scheme. You're not going to get results in 1 to 2 years. Even with all the success, without failures, it'll take 8 to 10 years minimum to get a drug into the market. So how do you get inflection points? The inflection points come, when you enter into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you're making progress. The valuation goes up. So investors need to be patient. They need to understand that we're there for long term. If they're thinking, they'll invest in Ocugen or they'll invest in some other biotech, will make quick bucks, please understand how this business works. Okay, we're trying to, really take care of patients in the long run and get these products to the market. Our focus is very clear. Okay, please understand the mission. When you're investing in not just Ocugen, any biotechs with cutting edge technologies, you're investing in those patients for therapies. Sometime your families, your friends may need these products. Just remember that.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. And so you really need to understand that. You need to have that heart to invest in biotechs and be patient when you're investing in biotechs like Ocugen. Okay. And eventually the results will come, but be patient. Understand the risks. So I think those are the elements when you are building a company, they need to understand to bring right investors at the right time and continue to grow the company.
Yeah, that's such a very, very, very powerful point. Make sure you have enough money. Otherwise, you can have the greatest idea in the world, and unfortunately, it just doesn't work. So
Yes.
that's really powerful.
Or getting the wrong investors and then focus on one thing and say, oh, you're not making the progress, even though you have platform technology, I'm going to shut you down. I can focus on my 9 other companies. This 1 in 10 formula some people use, I'll invest in a bunch of them. I don't have time, but one of them will take off. And I think you really need to get good investors. I mean, ideally, if the funds who are investing have industry experience, that's a number 1 check mark, and they understand what it takes to make a product. It's not just the invention. You need to have people on the other side, investment side. What does it take? They need to have some bumps on their head. What does it take to take these to clinical trials in US, EU, and other regional areas, and how to get these drugs approved? And that kind of a knowledge, that kind of a risk taking, they need to have, then only you can talk, right? Yeah. Knowledge is power. If you and I are talking, you have some knowledge, understanding of what we do, then it's easy for you to take the risk and invest. But if you don't understand that, if you're investing in some other industries, and it'll be very difficult for them to understand biotech, how to take those risks. And that's then they won't have patience. So that's really important. I mean, to get the right investors into the company at every level. I mean, ideally, I wish our big pharma, I think hopefully they can really start mega funds not like putting $1 billion in their venture arm, put like 20 billion, $30 billion funds and lead the way in investing in biotechs. Okay. As an entrepreneur, if I have funds like that led by big pharma, I would love them because they understand what it takes to make it.
Right.
So I think that maturity is not there in the biotech industry. We still rely on some funds and big pharma join them rather than leading them. I mean, if you take Silicon Valley, that's a paradigm shift I would love to see in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, in Silicon Valley, when the tech companies grow and the funding rounds they do, they ask you, who is behind you? Is it Google behind you, Apple behind you, Microsoft behind you, right? They
Yeah.
don't ask which VC is behind you,
Right.
right? So because they have huge venture arms, and I would like to see that paradigm shift. Then a lot of biotechs in future can benefit.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Next question for you, leadership. What makes a great leader, and what are some lessons you've learned about leadership?
Yeah, leadership is all about, not doing yourself everything and really ability to identify the talent. And you're like a coach and bringing a team together and coach them. And it's like on and off, like coaches do. When you're picking up well, we can do your stuff, leave them alone. Tell them what, and ask them, hey, we need to get there. This is a solution, we need to solve, and discuss the roadmap and, come up with thoughts and leave them alone. So I think you need to put right people at right place. And also it's like coaching, sometimes you have to put a lot of stress and, people come, you hire sometimes people from big pharma, small pharma, whatever. People come up with 20 years experience. They say, oh, I used to do this way. Yeah, you've done that way. But now that knowledge and that qualification has to match how Ocugen moves things. Use that knowledge, use that experience, but understand, step back and understand how Ocugen team is performing that. And so putting yourself into that, that's a transition we have to work on every day. So I think leaders are, the great leaders are people who can scale up. We have the vision. And today, let's say I have, 100 employee company, and tomorrow I'm envisioning we'll go into thousands in 3 years from now. How do you scale up? You need to build leadership team under you who have ability to scale up. They have experience, they have knowledge, and they're also great leaders. Just like Steve Jobs said, we hire smart people to tell us what to do, not to tell them what to do, right? And so that's a concept you need to understand in leadership. It's really important to continue to have positive environment and motivation. I'm not asking you to be soft. You need to be firm. Otherwise, it's very difficult to deliver, especially when you're a public company and you're announcing, you're projecting, these are the things I'm going to deliver. And so be empathetic, but be firm. And make sure your goals and objectives are very transparent and clear. But the number one thing is it's like coaching. Identify who needs more help, who needs less help, and adjust as needed. The goal is make people under you very independent so they can become future leaders and they can run the show. That's important. Then you can grow the whole organization.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Final question for you. What's the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience and or your 30-year-old self?
The best advice is I always tell people one thing, irrespective of what business you do, whatever you do in life, make sure you have a purpose, right? I tell sometimes our employees too, you can get the same paycheck working elsewhere too. You need to understand what we do here, what we are trying to do for patients. So you need to have that purpose in life, that passion which drives you. And that's number one thing, and I would advise audience. And nothing comes easy in life. There are no easy ways. Once you have the purpose, as I mentioned, you need to have grit, and you don't stop at it when you have failures. Okay, stand up, keep going, because you need to work hard in life. Nothing comes easy. Those are the two things I would tell them. I mean, have a purpose in life, that passion and perseverance to achieve that, to get there, do something. Life is beyond yourself. If God gave you a gift to have a better life, help the needy. And that's the same principle we teach our kids, and those are the values we teach. And so that's what you need to focus on. You need to have a purpose on something, beyond yourself, and then continue to gain knowledge, experience, but work hard. Work hard. Nothing comes easy. Okay. So if you do that, I think, you will get there.
Dr. Shankar, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Investors can learn more by going to your website. I'll have the description and the link to your website in the notes. Ticker symbol is OCGN. And is it safe to say you're trying to cure blindness, or is that a too broad of a statement?
No, I think in general that's technically it's accurate, but typically FDA and EMA, we don't have currently indication stating cure for blindness or cure for cancer. They
Right.
give treatment.
Treatments.
That's indication and label. For compliance reasons, you can call it treatment, but I think audience understand it. If it's a one-time treatment for life, what does it mean? They understand the essence of it, right?
Yes,
you don't have to keep repeating it. You give it. If I can slow down the significant disease progression, if I can stabilize it, and one of the patient videos, I'd like audience to go and look under our patient section of the website. And this patient lost his peripheral vision and night vision, and he has central vision left. You want to hang on to what he has. It's very touchy. There are many patients who are benefiting. Not only is he able to hold on to what he has, he's getting his peripheral vision back. He can see his hand moving. So that's something for me. When you see that, talk to this patient, we have done something.
Absolutely.
We are going towards our purpose of our life. And that's what I want people to understand. And so to answer your question, you're right. This is phenomenal technology, and it's so exciting. When you see that, those effects in patients, that's it. That says it all.
The slice of heaven. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. This was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you for having me today. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.